Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. Well, how it works is I describe what I see, okay? So
Okay.
first of all, it's a promotional image. I think it's called Trilogy ad for Instagram.
Okay.
And it's nicely composed. So the background is of like the ocean on a very very calm day. So it's just water, very dark.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And at the top it says Andrya Bailey, and
Yeah.
there are three book covers. And this is
Mm-hmm.
Olympian Love Trilogy, now available. Buy now, Barnes and Noble, Amazon.
Uh-huh.
It's a promotional ad image, and it's got the three covers are Olympian Passion, Olympian Heartbreak, and Olympian Love. And
Yeah.
we don't know each other, and I
No.
I want to learn about you. I come from the world of writing and books as well. And
Uh-huh.
so you are a romance author, award-winning romance author. So please explain what is this promotional image of your trilogy, and
Mm-hmm.
who are you?
Well, I am Andrea Bailey. That's actually my pen name, right?
Okay.
So I started writing romance. I actually start out writing other things since I was a young girl. And I was still living in Brazil. I always wanted to be a writer, so I would set up to, get a notebook and start writing, writing, writing lots of stories, not necessarily romance, but anything. I mean, like adventures, mysteries, infused with romance sometimes, sci-fi, anything. I just loved it. And you know how life gets in the way of your dreams sometimes, and then you just go do something else, and you still have that background that you always wanted to do something and you never had the chance. So I would always be like writing a poem or a short story or something, but never knew how to start on the business of like actually writing and being published.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple of years ago, even though like I would write things and put in the drawers and sometimes by hand or then just file on the computer away and things. And a couple of years ago, I saw an ad, an opportunity to submit a manuscript to publishing company.
Wow.
And I
Okay.
had this manuscript ready, but I didn't know like any process, like I wrote the thing and I kind of edited a couple of times, but it was not like, professionally edited or anything. I was just very, very naive. I had no idea how to go through the process, but I saw this thing and I'm like, okay, I'm going to send this and see how it works. Well, I sent it and, I never heard from them again, but I had like something there already, like I had
Yeah.
like a full manuscript. So I started going to research about it. Now that I have it ready, how can I go about publishing? And then I found a bunch of resources and I found a lot of people here in Houston that were involved with some writing groups. And then it started. But I didn't start writing romance. I started writing something else. I published another book that's more like a psychological thriller. And I published a book of poems. And then like I made a lot of like friends in the writing community. And the romance one actually came out of a challenge. Some of my friends says, hey, why don't you write some specific genre like romance? And I go, I don't know, I've read a lot of romance before in my life, but I wasn't thinking.
Okay. Yeah. So then you started going into romance.
Yes, because of a challenge. And then actually, like I had written a scene one time for another contest and I found it. And I found that scene and I go, I can work on this. And it's actually one of the scenes in the first book. And I sent that to some of my writing friends and I told them like, well, what do you think about this? Do you think I can work on a romance based on this specific scene? And they loved it. And they said, yeah, you can totally write a trilogy or something based on this. So that's how it started, And then like I went in with my pen name as Andrea Bailey because when you write lots of different genres, it's not good to mix the name because if somebody is not into romance and then suddenly they pick up your book and it's a romance, they may be very upset. So you have
Okay.
to cater
Okay.
for your different readers, you know.
Okay. Now that is fascinating to me because I understand this idea of being the author, of writing, of putting your things. So do you have different names for different book styles?
Yes, I have two names. I have one name for everything else that I write, which is poetry, short stories, flash fiction, my other novel that's a psychological thriller. And then I have Andrea Bailey for my romance, which I am
Amazing.
currently concentrating more on because the third book in the trilogy came out last year. So the trilogy is finally complete. And just last week, the third book in Spanish was also published.
Oh
So the
wow.
trilogy is now complete in Spanish as well. And
Wow.
also, 2 weeks ago, the second book in Greek just came out. Now, the third is still being translated, but it's going to come out also in Greek. So I have
Oh
these three
wow.
different languages, that the books that being translated to. So that's pretty cool.
First of all, it's very cool. It's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
But not Portuguese?
No, well,
Why not?
amazing. It
Why
is
not?
harder. I want to do, but it's harder to find a translator for Portuguese.
Ah,
Why? Because I know the language. So, at one point I was trying to say, like, maybe I will write it. And then I went into some research, and it was totally like not recommended for you to write your same book in another language, even if you know it very well, because first is a
okay.
waste of time, because you basically wasting time writing the same book while you could be
Right.
writing another book. And second,
Yep.
because you know the language, the tendencies, you probably would change a lot of things because you are basically
Yeah,
rewriting the book in another language. So I gave
that's
up,
true.
trying to do that, and I'm trying to find translators in Portuguese, and it just. The other day I had like an offer, and it was interesting because this guy's like, "Oh, I have translated so many books," and his profile was actually very good. He had like a lot of translations, and people had given him good reviews and everything. So he, in the platform that I have for translation, has a paragraph, a couple of paragraphs, and then the translator, if they want it, they will translate and send it to me. So I have to accept or not. So of course,
Yeah.
because I know the language, I can totally approve it or not. So
Uh,
he sent this to me, and I'm reading, and I'm like, no, that doesn't make sense. It seems to me that he totally Google translated it. So I picked up that
right.
same thing and Google translated, and it is exactly what he put. So I said, of course, he's
That's
doing like 20,
nuts.
30 books a year because he's putting everything. And the thing is, for people that know the Latin languages, it's very easy to
Yeah.
detect if something has been. I mean, he could
Oh, for sure.
do something. He could be more perfect, even if you put on Google Translator. But if he had proofread it, he would see the mistakes
Yeah.
that there were.
Yeah.
Because we have the feminine, we have the masculine, and then when you're saying like
Yep.
I am happy or I am whatever, you're gonna, because I am a woman, that will agree with my genre, so it would be
Yeah.
have an A at the end. If it's a male,
Mm-hmm.
it usually will have a no at the end, right? So when you
Right.
read it, when you read the translation from Google Translator doesn't know what you are, if you're a man and a woman or
Yeah.
whatever. So they will just put everything as, oh, as masculine.
Okay. So, for example, how would you say in the Rio de Janeiro Portuguese, "I am not impressed" if you're a man? If you're a man.
Oh, you mean like I'm not impressed?
Yeah.
If a man is saying that, it's like, não estou impressionado.
Okay. And how would you say it if if you're female?
Não estou impressionada.
No estoy impresionada. That's what we have to send to that guy and say, "Yo, buddy, get out of here." That's
I,
awful. That's awful.
I sent him something. I said, "Look, and he had no idea that I'm Brazilian, right? Because like the platform has Andrya Bailey and everything in English, so he had
Ah,
no idea. But the problem is that I've had some other authors go into this platform before, and because they know that I speak Portuguese, that I'm Brazilian, they would send to me their little excerpts that the people did, and a lot of
right.
times I would say like, no, it doesn't, it's not very good, or sometimes it was okay, and actually I had two people translate my books, but when I started reading them, it's like, no, it doesn't make sense because they are doing too much like translation word for word and not using
Right.
expressions
Yeah.
that we would. Even though I tell them, I said, look, just think, read it aloud, the dialogues, for example. Nobody will say like this. I mean, we'll say this in English, okay, fine. But you won't do the same way in Portuguese because it doesn't, this expression doesn't exist, or it,
No, exactly. Exactly.
so that was the hardest. It's so far being the hardest to find Portuguese. I was very lucky with
Got it.
Spanish
Mm-hmm.
because I had a couple of experiences too that didn't work out, and
Mm-hmm.
this girl came. She did translations of a book of somebody that I know, and I think that she saw his list of author friends and saw that I was in this platform, and she came to me, and she's actually from Argentina and is in Argentina,
Ah,
and she
okay.
said, "Hey, I would love to translate your trilogy because I love romance and it seems very interesting. You have Greek mythology, a lot of things that I like in this." And I said, "Okay." So she said, and my Spanish is okay to get by, but I'm not like
Mm-hmm.
literary Spanish. Like it's not my native language, but I can read it and make some sense of it. But it seemed okay. But I have a lot of friends here also from other countries, one friend from Peru, a friend from Paraguay, and I sent it to them and I said, hey, would you mind taking a look at this and just see if
For sure.
it makes sense? Because they had already read the English version, so that was even better because they knew exactly what the story was about.
Right.
And they liked, and they said she's very, very good. So I asked her to do the three translations, and she did all of the three books. So that was good. She actually did my psychological thriller too. So she translated four of my books to Spanish.
Oh, wow, wow. Look at you. Let's move on to the next photo, but before we do, have you counted how many books you've published so far?
For the romance, I have three books. This trilogy, it's like one, two, three. The
Yeah.
trilogy is complete. I'm trying to work on the next book, but like all these things about the translations kind of took my time as well.
Yep.
And with my other profile, I have the psychological thriller, a book of poems, and I have several short stories published in different anthologies. So technically,
Nice.
I have five books. Yeah.
Okay. These are good problems to have if you can't remember. How many? This is awesome.
Yeah, it's because of the short stories. Because I always like how many
Yeah.
short stories? I don't know. Like a couple of interesting anthologies with different genres too. So,
Okay, well, let's move on to the next photo.
all right.
So, is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So, if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw.